I'm ironically freezing my ass off outside of Stay Warm 2016, this year headlined by Protest the Hero, and we're here to speak to my friend vocalist Rody Walker about the last few years of the band. We're going to catch up, find out about what his thoughts are behind their increased popularity and where they are right now as a band. So I want to ask you, we've talked over the years so much about how you guys sort of have your own cult of fans, and you've always had your own cult of fans, and then you've played with so many different types of bands that you either attract a lot of people or it just doesn't jive with that particular band. But it seems now that in the last few years that it's really pushed beyond that, and like that doesn't really happen anymore, is that you can pretty much play with anyone and have a good reception. You've crossed over that line where for some reason people didn't quite get what you were trying to put out, and I feel that people now have sort of been tuned into that. I feel that you've crossed over that divide in the last few years. What do you think?
We're kind of like that old gum on the bottom of your boot that like you tried to pick off a bunch of times, but now you just got used to it and accept it as part of your boot. You know what I mean? But the reality is we haven't been out on a support tour in a very long time. For the longest time we've been headlining. So it's like we don't have to worry about fitting in because it's like the big chunk of the audience is there to see us. Whereas just after this tour, we're going out with August Burns Red, and we are main support. And we'll see if what you're saying holds true.
I think, though, a lot of the reason that you've been headlining has come to the fact that you've brought over a lot of new fans in the last few years, and I think Volition had a lot to do with that. And I think there's something particularly special about that record, which connected with a much more of a wider audience than usual. Why do you think that was?
With the Indiegogo, I think that the fans of the band felt a lot more connected to the band, knowing that they were an intricate part of the band. So that's the only thing I could really attribute it to. Other than that, the tunes are just wicked, right? And people love them.
Without a word uttered, a comparison is drawn. A distant future, a clear past. Amid the stars, vague yet persistent, though lacking consistency. Unwilling victim of farce. The loudest voices scream uninspired.
In terms of how much of a success that campaign was, I would think that people do like it quite a bit, but I feel like that there's been sort of a reaction to that within the band as well. I feel like that had the campaign and the way that everything came about, did that affect how the band creates music now? Because I feel like there's been this axis change since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. You can definitely hear a shift in production. We changed producers for that record, and Cam started producing. But that's the biggest change I can hear. I think, if anything, it's reinvigorated us a little bit. When this cycle was over for Scurrilous, it all felt kind of abysmal. It felt like it was winding to an end. And then the Indiegogo campaign kicked off, and people sort of kicked us right in our ball bags and said, smarten the fuck up, and it was a breath of new life into the band, I think.
Because for me, Scurrilous was this very dense kind of prog record almost, and when it came to Volition, it had those same kind of progressive elements, but there was almost this rock and roll attitude and like sonically like throughout the whole thing. And I felt like this, even though the subject matter largely was quite serious, there was this lightness to the record, which had this sort of this joy to the sound of the record, and I felt a distinct shift, and I think it's carried over into Pacific Myth as well, and that's I guess where I'm coming from with what I'm feeling these days from the band. You know what I mean?
Well, you've known us as long as anyone. It's like we're not incredibly serious people, and we've always had a very difficult time, exemplifying that in our music because the music is so fucking serious, and I don't know if we found that perfect balance yet, but it's getting there.
It's funny because these songs that, the lyrics that you write, especially with the issues that you write, especially women's issues, especially that I like that you write about, you connect with your fans on a very emotional level, but then it's this sort of unified with this immaturity at the same time. Yeah, and your lyrics are getting more and more intense, and like I feel like you guys are getting more and more silly on stage at the same time.
Oh yeah, no. The longer we do this, the stupider we get on stage. It's like we're past the days where we can like be dancing and thrashing ourselves around. We just don't have the capacity to do that anymore. So it's got to be the jokes. The jokes take place of all the other antics, I suppose.
Without the faintest hint of irony, that I'm flashing my pearly whites to sustain my mediocrity. So is everyone having a good time tonight? Good, I'm glad I couldn't actually care less.
Were you at all disappointed with the way Pacific Myth worked out? Because the sort of the narrative in the press is that it wasn't, as fulfilling as you guys wanted it to be in terms of the experiment of how you distributed the tracks and so on.
No, like we weren't disappointed at all. I mean, it was an overwhelming success as far as we see it. It was limited to basically just our fan base. Like it wasn't going to grow our band in any way, shape, or form. But I don't think it was a failure. Yeah, we're kind of double dipping now, re-releasing it and putting the physical one out for everyone. But it was a really interesting experiment. It really lit the fire under our asses and made us work harder than we had to produce something, in this time frame that just wasn't long enough. But it was really interesting. I believe it was a success. But I will never do it again.
Sort of wrap it up on that, you can do things like Pacific Myth and you can experiment and you have that freedom now because it's been proven to you. And one song that I thought was very interesting on Volition was the song Yellow Teeth. And because, you've always acted in this way where the people who speak negatively about the band and the people who judge the band, that doesn't really affect you. But it's obviously something that you think about. And so is that something that actually still kind of motivates you? Because now I feel like you guys have sort of risen above that sort of petty criticism that you used to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of criticism about the sound of my voice and stuff like that. But yeah, we don't really care. I mean, we're making enough to put food in our bellies and still have fun on stage like that. So if people don't like it, they don't have to listen to it, and that's fucking totally cool with me.
Thanks so much for speaking to me today. Wish you all the best with whatever the future holds. We're looking forward to it. And do you have any final words today?
I just want to say, Andrew, it was very nice to see you again, doing an interview. That's it, really.
On the bus is Brody Walker from Protest the Hero. This is Andrew Epstein for Zombatron Productions. We'll see you next time.